what you want to do is kind of look through and find a color that looks similar to kind of the wood top of your pencil. When you have something you think you've selected, you can just kind of click and drag into your um, artboard. And this is okay, this is all right. It's not actually maybe my favorite color. And coming up here to this black arrow, which is my selection tool, I can easily kind of click through and change that. Maybe a little more, and that's fine for our purposes. You can see that anytime I click something down here in this Pantone swatch, it's going to come up into your main primary swatch panel. That's okay, it's just something to be aware of. All right, so let me go back to our PDF and select, see what our next step is. So we want to delete one of the top anchor points and drag the remaining point over to the center to make a triangle. Okay. So when I select this using my black arrow, you can actually see there's actually 4 anchor points that make each corner of this rectangle. Using this white arrow, I can actually really see these 4. They're right here. And I can select one of those points at a time. So you can see as I click here with the white direction selection tool, it now has 1 blue and these are white. And that means that I have selected just this one corner and I can click and drag and do what I need to do with it. All right. The black arrow is going to select the entire object. The white arrow selects just one anchor point in that object. So I can actually select this one top point, hit delete on my keyboard, and now I have 3 points and it's starting to look a little more like a triangle. By selecting this top point, I can click and drag over, and I should start to see kind of some more of this kind of the right shape for the top of that pencil. I want to make sure my guides are turned on and my smart guides. The smart guides will actually tell me when I'm starting to hit that center. So you can see as I drag, I now get a kind of a hesitation or a little resistance, and I'm seeing this vertical line that shows me this is actually the center of this line down here. And that's perfect. That's what we want to see. And you can see there's a black stroke, a small black line on 2 sides of this triangle. And we want to make sure that also is on the 3rd side. A good thing to see is up here in your view outline modes. And this actually shows you the shape of this vector shape. So now I'm actually seeing that there's actually only 2 sides of this vector, and the 3rd side is missing since I've deleted that anchor point. I've actually deleted out a side. So if you go back and you can hit, you can see that it looks like it's filled in, like the shape is fully there. But if I double check, I can see it's definitely not. What you want to do is use this pen tool, and you'll want to select this top anchor point and down here, and you're going to click it down at this last, and this is going to complete the shape. It's going to close the path, we call it. And you can see as I come down, there's now a little complete closed circle on the bottom of the pen nib. So I click it. I'm going to hit Command Y on my keyboard to go back to the preview mode. And you can see now I have a triangle. So in just this one shape, I've had to stop and show you a few things, but this will start to get a little faster. What we want to do, what the PDF says to do, is now to repeat this shape. We're going to copy and paste it, and we're going to turn it into black, and it's going to become this whole top section. So yet again, I still don't love this color. I'm gonna actually make it a little lighter, and that looks pretty good. So that I just came into transparency. You actually can just always select it up here. You don't have to go into this transparency. As I select it, you can see that it gives me these color panel options. That looks a little better. So while I have this selected, there's a couple ways you can copy and paste. One is coming up to edit, copy, and paste. And a shortcut I like to do is select it, hold Alt on my keyboard, and you can see now I'm seeing two arrows, and click and drag without letting go, and let go of Alt after you've dragged. So you can see now I have two triangles, and I need to turn it black. So I'm gonna just swap these, and it's gonna put black. I'm gonna select the stroke on top, I'm gonna turn it off, and I'm gonna bring my full opacity back to that black, so it's a nice strong black. To change the size of it, there's a pretty simple thing to do. We need to make it smaller, fit about right in here. I'm going to select it with my black arrow, and you'll see a bounding box come up. Holding Shift on my keyboard and coming up to this top arrow is going to let me scale this down, and it's going to keep it proportional. So I'm going to click and drag down while I'm still holding Shift. I'm going to click and drag it with my black arrow and put it in about the right spot. It's important, and our PDF says this, to zoom in, look pretty closely, and make sure you have this lined up exactly. So you can see it's a little off center. So I'm going to take my black arrow, and I can manually drag it to a little better, closer position. I also can click and select both of these items. And up here, you're seeing your line palette come up. And often these little tools help things line up just right. Okay. So coming back, we now have kind of the top of our pencil. I'm going to zoom out a little bit on my artboard. I'm going to just select both of these and scale them down. They're a little large for a pencil. Move them over here. Let's go ahead and tab back to our PDF and see what step 2 is. So step 2, we're going to make the body of the pencil. And this is going to be built primarily with the shape palette, the shape tools. So we're going to draw a rectangle with a 1-point black stroke, and we need to find this kind of color. And our first rectangle, I believe, is this back. Let's go ahead and draw the back. So let's see, something over here, maybe like this. And I'm just going to kind of click and drag something that seems like about the right length. And this looks good. But I'm supposed to have a 1-point black stroke on it. So let's select it. I'm going to bring this stroke panel on top. I'm just going to come back to my black, and select the black color, and it's going to give you a default black 1-point stroke. So by default, the stroke width is always 1 point. You can always come in and select any point. So as you say you decide you want a really thick line, outline, you can. You can also say you want a really thin line, and you also can always type up in here if there's a different value that you wish was represented. We're going to take this same, we need to duplicate this rectangle and make it a little smaller to fit in that center. So I'm going to take that same copy and paste shortcut. I'm going to select it once, hold Alt, and drag out a copy. This time I know I just need it about half the width. And we want a little different value. I wonder what this looks like. We're going to drag it to about the center. And I'm seeing my smart guys are showing me this is centered right here. Okay. Let's check our PDF. So we've drawn both centers. And I think now we need to work on this part down here. So we're going to create the metal nib of we're going to first create the eraser and then this metal nib part or bracket that's on the bottom of the pencil. So for the eraser, they want us to draw a rounded rectangle with a 6-point corner radius and a 1-point black stroke. Okay, let's see. First, I'm actually going to go back to that color. I'm going to try just so coming up here, I actually can create a better match. Let's start on the eraser. So let's double check our PDF and see what our instructions say. Draw a rounded rectangle with a 6-point corner radius, 1-point black stroke. So I'm looking down here at step 4. If you come up to the shape palette, you're going to click and hold and you'll see a variety of shape options come out. There's not a lot, but there's a few. And the important thing to know is that all of these are vectors with anchor points that you can use the pen tool to manipulate into more of your custom shape, just like we did in the top of the pencil. So down here at rounded rectangle, I'm going to select it. And I'm going to come over to my swatches. And this time I need a light pink. Something like this. And if instead of click and drag, if I actually just click in the space, I get some options that come up. So I can actually select 6-point rounded rectangle. Okay, let's see what that looks like. It looks about right, just quite a bit too long. So if I click this black arrow, I can actually click and drag down to a height that works a little better. And if I just drag that over, now what I'm going to want to do is I can see this time, since it's a rounded rectangle, each corner actually has 2 anchor points, right? So we're not talking about 4 on the rounded rectangle, we're talking about 8. What I'd like to do though is convert those to up here to a straight anchor. On this top, we don't actually need. We don't need that rounded. And I can use this delete anchor point to get rid of those. Now I actually have a straight, and I can drag that up. And that looks pretty good. Let's double check our PDF. And let's go into step 5. So we need to create this larger gray rectangle with a 1-point black stroke. And then we're going to create a series of small rounded rectangle with this instruction right here. Let's start with the long. So coming back up, I'm going to come back to the shape palette. I'm going to actually use this one of these grays. And I know by default, let's see, we'll put this at 1. And we can come up a little bit. Okay. And this time, double check. So step 6, last step, draw a small rounded rectangle with a 3-point corner radius and 1-point black stroke. We're going to drag copy, so we're going to do my shortcut of copy paste, 3 more and position them. Let's come in here. And right up here, you can see the corner type, corner radius. We're going to change that to 3. And we're going to select it once, hold Alt, and we're going to select some more. Let's zoom out and check our work. I like this, hence this eraser, to have the same 1 point. I'm going to actually drag this out, down a little bit. So it's important to kind of, it's not a, you know, in this little play demo, it doesn't matter if it's super exact. So you feel free to kind of click some things around, play around until you get some proportions and shapes and sizes that you like. Okay. So that's your pencil. And what you've primarily done in this pencil is use the shape palette. We've used our shortcut of holding Alt while we select something to copy, drag a copy. That's a good shortcut. We've looked at the color palette. We've looked at our adding different swatches if we don't like what we have available. And we've looked at some different ways to draw the shape. So if you click and drag versus select once, and you'll see some options here. Okay, let's go ahead and save our pencil. So we're going to hit Save As. And I'm going to select my class project video. And I'm going to create a folder. Tutorial. And then up here, I'm going to save it. Underscore with my last name. Now down here you can see format. The nice thing about Illustrator, or something you'll really come to like, is there's a lot of good formats for it. So just in the save window, you can always save it to the default Illustrator file type, which is AI. You also can save as a PDF. PDFs are native to Illustrator, so you can open PDFs and edit PDFs in Illustrator and put them back. So let's go ahead and just save it as a PDF here, and we'll hit save. This is good, so I'll hit save. And now I'm actually working in a PDF right now.